Despite horror stories featuring monsters and curses, one of the most dangerous and deadly parts of our planet is simultaneously one of the things that we rely on the most: the ocean. Immeasurable mysteries lurk beneath the waves, and the vastness of the sea ensures that those who fall victim to the swells may very well never be heard from again. From sea monsters of the type usually only described in legends to storms of such enormous proportions that they can swallow entire cities, the ocean constantly reminds us that we are at its mercy. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at 3 fascinating mysteries from the ocean. The Cassie Nicole boat. On April 10, 1990, a snapper boat set off on a fishing expedition in the Atlantic Ocean. For the majority of the previous month, the ship had been undergoing maintenance, and on the second day of the expedition, at allegedly 4:30 a.m, one of the crew members, Nathan, noticed that there was something wrong with the ship. It was stagnant and churning forward in a worryingly unstable manner. Brothers Nathan and the captain Billy Joe Neesmith discovered a store of water in the hold, and the pumps were no longer running. The power went out, and any attempts to get help through the radio were futile. Nathan woke up the other 2 crew members, Keith Wilkes and Franklin Brantley, who attempted to gather and pour the water overboard using buckets, but this failed as the boat continued to sink deeper into the waves. Captain Neesmith ordered for the ship to be abandoned since they would not be able to salvage it. Fortunately, they had a raft on board, which they all decided to board, but the raft was run down and had not been adequately cared for during the ship's maintenance, and a fungus had gotten into the wood, rotting it from within. The raft was small, and the 4 men struggled to fit onto it. They floated upon the waves until the hull of their sunken boat drifted towards them. Nathan decided to attempt riding on the hatch drifting nearby, despite the pleas from his fellow crew members to remain on the raft. They had no way of knowing what would happen if touching the shipwreck was safe, not to mention they feared the possibility of being split up on the vast, dark ocean. Nathan swam until he reached the submerged hull, but the dark dusk concealed his vision of the raft. By the morning of April 12th, he saw a freighter in the distance which circled around his crewmates for several hours, but the freighter never came for him. Fate seemed grim for Nathan, but then the ship's bait box broke off and he saved himself by turning it into a raft just before the whole boat sunk into the Atlantic. He was rescued on April 15, 1990, terribly sunburnt and on the verge of death from dehydration. He hoped to be reunited with his crewmates, but this chance never arrived because, despite a search by the US Coast Guard, his 3 crewmates were missing. Nathan believes that the freighter which saved them dropped them off in a different nation. Oneida, the sister of Nathan and Captain Billy Joe Neesmith, received a strange call from someone speaking Spanish, but the only thing she understood was her name and phone number before the caller hung up. The owner of the snapper boat, Mr. Tyson, received a similar call from someone speaking broken English. Oneida and Tyson received 3 more calls between them until 1991, when the caller said, "I am bringing them home," in comprehensive English. Oneida stated in her testimony that the caller must have been a Spanish-speaking native from another country who found or befriended the 3 crew members. The 3 men, Billy Joe Neesmith, Keith Wilkes and Franklin Brantley, are still lost at sea and have officially been declared deceased. Despite this, the strange calls suggest they were alive and on their way home. Since then, there has been no contact at all with either Mr. Tyson or Oneida. Despite the fact 30 years have now passed, their family still pray for their safe return. The Kubenharwin Disappearance. The Scandinavian sailing ship was the largest sailing ship in the world upon her launch in 1921 and was fully equipped with 20-story high sailing masts that would lead her to successfully sail twice around the world. She was primarily a training vessel that allowed the sons of prominent Danish families to learn how to sail, so that they could eventually make a career as an officer. Because of this, Kubenharwin frequently set sail with light or no cargo loads. After unloading a light cargo of cement and chalk in Buenos Aires, she underwent one of these empty voyages on a journey from Buenos Aires to Australia, headed by the capable and respected Captain Hans Andersen. Andersen and a small crew of 15, along with 45 cadets from prominent Danish families, set sail for the 7-week journey. On December 22nd, a passing Norwegian steamer received an "all is well" radio signal from the ship as it passed Tristan da Cunha Island in the South Atlantic. This exchange became the last time the ship was seen or heard. At this time, radio was a fairly new technology and had a limited range at sea. Captain Andersen was not fond of using it, so initially the Danish East Asiatic Company that owned the ship was not concerned at the lack of communication. However, as the days and weeks passed and there was still no sign of the ship and she did not appear at her expected port, the company became more and more alarmed. Due to the extensive cost of the extravagant vessel, as well as pressure from the wealthy families whose sons were cadets on the missing ship, the company launched an extensive search of the area around Tristan da Cunha for several months. There had been rumours of a damaged ship sighted off the coast that had quickly disappeared. However, there was no sign of the ship, and the search expanded towards the Australian coast without result. At long last, the Danish East Asiatic Company was forced to declare the ship lost at sea. However, that is where the mystery begins. Fishermen and sailors around Chile and Argentina reported several sightings of a phantom 5-mast sailing ship that matched the description of the Kubenharwin, causing rumours that the ship was haunting the sea where it went down. Then, in 1934, men working in the South Atlantic discovered a sealed bottle that contained an account from a cadet on board the ship, saying that the ship struck an iceberg, forcing the crew to take lifeboats in the middle of a gale force ice storm and watch as their ship slowly descended into the sea, leaving behind a grim fate for the passengers. Although there is no way to tell if the note is legitimate, it supports the prevailing theory that she was sunk in the Arctic waters, although another is that she capsized due to the lack of cargo on board. Whatever the case, Kubenharwin was never seen again and remains a prevailing mystery of the sea. The Valor Incident. On the 22nd of September 1979, a strange incident happened in the Indian Ocean. A group of American satellites detected an unidentified flash of light, twice. The satellites that detected the light flash were known as Valor satellites. They were developed by the US for monitoring nuclear detonations carried out by the Soviet Union in different parts of the world. So the strange unidentified double light flashes that were detected by the Valor satellites became famous as the Valor Incident. Military officials were baffled by the event and they had no clue as to what the source of the explosion was. Before this incident, the Valor satellites had detected 41 different double flashes that were caused by nuclear tests. At first, the US military officials suggested that the unidentified double light flash was a result of a meteoroid. However, most of the independent analysts refuted these claims, instead believing that they were most likely to be nuclear weapons tests. In 2003, Stansfield Turner, a former director of the CIA, stated that the Valor incident was an entirely man-made phenomenon. He hinted that the tests were either carried out by South Africa or Israel. Since the incident in 1979, a lot of information about the incident has been released to the public. However, some of the major questions about the incident are still unanswered, and it cannot be said for sure who carried out these nuclear tests. The Wikipedia page on the Valor incident discusses the possible responsible parties for the alleged nuclear weapons tests that were detected by the Valor satellites. Other than Israel and South Africa, the Soviet Union, India, Pakistan, and France have been discussed as the countries that could have carried out these tests.